So good afternoon, good morning, colleagues. This hour I'm going to share my book presentation, and the book that I chose is The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton. And I heard of this book some years ago when I was in the John C. Maxwell conference and training to be a John C. Maxwell certified coach. The president of the John Maxwell team at that time, Paul Martinelli, kept referring to the biology of beliefs and how this book can transform the way you think. And I made a note to read this book, but I never got around to do it until when I came to this course. And when I saw it in the list of books, I said, this is the opportunity to read this book. Okay, so that's how I chose this book, because Paul McNally kept saying about the power of belief and how it can even heal you and so on and so forth. So that's the book that I'm going to talk about. I would say something briefly about the author and the book. Then I will go on to share, there are plenty ideas, but I'll share about 7 of the key ideas that I think relate to our coaching process as we are learning it here. So Bruce Lipton is a professor of cell biology, and he's done a lot of research. He's taught in the university medical schools about cells and how cells grow, how cells affect your body, and so on and so forth, and the healing processes. And he's taught medical students about cells. As he says, after a while, his personal life was crumbling. He was having issues here and there, divorced, his house was sold, and he didn't understand what was going on. He's almost losing his job, and he got a job in the Caribbean. And whilst in the Caribbean teaching some island, he came to some awareness and did some research to establish, to confirm some of the things that he was teaching, which at some point he doubted about genes and how genes control who we are, how we behave, and so on and so forth. And so he did further research, and he came to the conclusion that indeed, genes are not the most important factor in our biology, in our psychology, in our emotional state, and in our behavior. And that faith or belief is the most important factor. And that is what necessitated the title of the book, The Biology of Belief. And so he shares in the book so many ideas about how your belief, your faith can affect you, the environment, and so on and so forth. And one commentator says that this research has contributed to a greater understanding of life and the true nature of humanity, and says it empowers a wide layer of the public to take control of their own lives and become responsible co-creators of a harmonious future. In other words, the message of the book is that we as humans have the power to create our future by what we believe, what we put into our minds, and so on and so forth. So that is the, if you like, the gist about the book, and I would continue to share some of the background as we go along. So I'm going to take 7 of the ideas that I picked from this book and to try to explain how they relate to the coaching process, and particularly the ICF competencies. All right. The first one is this idea of cooperation versus competition. Bruce establishes that the current theories of evolution and development was based on competition. But he found out no. In fact, growth is more facilitated by cooperation rather than competition, and that the universe, the world, would be better if we all cooperated. And I found that this was very, very interesting, because it, in a way, helps to understand the coaching concept. And when you look at the coaching definition from the ICF, it's a partnership between the coach and the client. So there's no competition between the two. And the agreement that is to be established between the client and the coach is to ensure that the parties understand the relationship, the responsibilities, and so on and so forth. And in this relationship, the coach is required under competency 4 to cultivate trust and safety. So there's no competition. It's supposed to be a harmony and creating the environment to be able to have a harmonious environment. So that, for me, was very, very important and instructive, because coaching is actually about partnership, it's about cooperation, and it's not about competition. So the client's ideas, his needs, his goals are what is going to drive, and the coach is supporting that with the process and so on. So that's the first idea that I want to share. The second idea that comes from the book is the idea of the power of the environment and how it affects our behavior. And here, Bruce explains that, in fact, when they looked at cells, the current theory was that the nucleus of the cell is what guides or what affects the behavior of the cells. But he found that no, after doing several exercises, he found that it is the membrane, the outer layer of the cell, that was actually communicating to the cell on what it should be, and so on and so forth. And he did different experiments, putting the same fraction of cells into different elements, and he found that the cells develop into different things, some to bone, some to flesh, some to different, and he found that it is not the cell, the nucleus of the cell, but actually the environment into which the cells are grown that affect what the outcome of the cell is. And this is also relevant to coaching, because we find that within the coaching agreement, the client, the coach is supposed to create or cultivate trust. Competency 4, cultivate trust. The coach partners with the client to create a safe, supportive environment. And the environment here, according to Bruce, is not just only the physical environment, but also the beliefs, the values, the perspectives. So these beliefs and perspective that the client brings into the coaching, the coach is supposed to be able to work with this and also help create a harmonious environment to be able to support the client. And in fact, the competencies require the coach to create a harmonious environment by using appropriate language to be able to help the client have a very, if you like, comforting environment around which he can open up to the coach and help. So if the coach was just throwing his ideas and opinions around, it may not necessarily help the coaching process. So that, for me, was also very, very interesting. The third idea that I found in this book, which was also very interesting, was the idea that our thoughts, our true thoughts, affects our behaviors. Our thoughts affect our behaviors, all right? And it determines our emotional well-being. And this is also important for the coach. It's absolutely important. Just a second, for the coach, because how the client is thinking, what the client is thinking, to a large extent, will determine what the client is going to do. All right. And so effective coaching should help the client become aware of his or her thoughts and help to generate new perspectives. And that is why competency 5 and 6 are important. Competency 5 talks about maintaining a coaching presence, where the coach is fully conscious and present with the client. And competency 6 talks about active listening, which means that the coach needs to focus on what the client is, not just what the client is saying, but also how the client is manifest his body language, his emotion, and so on. So listening to what he says and what he has not said, and the context in which he's saying, all that will help the coach to know what the client is thinking and how to help the client in the coaching process. So that, for me, was also very, very important and relevant to our practice as we are learning it here. The next important idea from the book was the interrelationship between our conscious and our subconscious mind. And what Bruce says here is that your conscious mind has programmed certain beliefs deep down. And therefore, your thinking is not just at the conscious level, which is the level at which you are hearing and taking ideas in, but also there's a programming inside of you, deep inside, which affects even the thoughts that come into your head. And so the coach has to go beyond just what the client is saying and try to help the client go deep into his consciousness. And this also requires the cultivation of trust, maintaining presence, but also helping to evoke awareness, which is competency 7, facilitate the client insight and learning by using various tools and techniques that will help the client to go deeper beyond just the surface thinking into what is truly his deeper beliefs and practices, which are in his conscious mind. So Bruce will say that when we truly recognize our true beliefs, we become powerful, and that holds the key to our freedom. So the realization can come through the coaching practice that the good coaching practice that we are able to bring to the table. Then there is the next idea about growth and protection. Now, Bruce says that any organism has a tendency to gravitate towards energies that will enhance its growth and move away from energies that would hinder its growth. And that idea, he experimented with the cells and so forth to show that when you are in an environment that facilitates growth, you are able to grow faster than when you are in an environment that is detrimental. So you gravitate towards life-sustaining stimuli. And this is very important. So if a client is coming into the coaching process and coming to us and telling us about their situation and what is going on, we should be able as coaches to try to decipher what environment and whether the environment are reinforcing or whether they are toxic. And that is why we also as coaches need to help to create that environment that will be sustaining, life-sustaining. And that way, through creating a very safe environment and trust, we'll be able to allow the client to open up and help us to see the factors that are affecting the client's growth, hindering the client growth, or facilitating the client's growth. And that way, as you say, we must, to help the client to eliminate the stresses, but also help the client to seek environment that is joyful, loving, fulfilling, and life-stimulating. And so that was also for me very, very interesting. The next one is, Bruce says, we have personal responsibility for our health and our growth. He says that the current medical practice where every emphasis is put on medication and medical science process and so on and so forth have their limitations, and that the individual on whom the doctor is working has a responsibility for his health, which means his beliefs, what he believes, his values about his condition go a long way to affect the success of the medical process. And here I find that this correlates to the concept of client autonomy, where the client is the one who determines what the coaching process will be, who determines what his needs are, who determines the goals, and it is what he thinks that the coach should work with, and also the coach should help the client to take responsibility. At the beginning, when we have the agreement, it has to be clear what the responsibilities of the coach is and what the responsibilities of the client is. And the client is fully responsible for the outcomes. And this is emphasized also by competency 7 and 8, evoking awareness and client growth. All that depends on the client. And Bruce will say that we are conscious co-created in the evolution of our lives. We have free will and we have choices. Consequently, our success is based on our choices, which are in turn totally dependent on our awareness. So this is so important for us, the coach, because if we are able to help the client evoke new awareness, it will help the client make choices that will help facilitate not only their physical health, but emotional health, and Bruce will even add your spiritual health, which takes us to the next and maybe the last idea that I would like to share here. All right. And that is very interesting for me. I'm a person of faith and I believe in God, but it was interesting for me that a scientist says that his research establishes that humans are made in the image of God and that we live after. And Bruce says that we need to bring spirit back into the equation when we want to improve our physical health and our mental health. And he cites several cases to establish the point that healing is not just physical. In fact, one of the base of the book was to see the dichotomy between matter and spirit and the philosophical arguments between whether man is just matter or man is just spirit. And he comes to the conclusion that no, man is not just matter, but man has also a spirit, and that spirit is also determined by the beliefs and the values and so on and so forth. And that this spirit, according to him, lives on after. So those are the 7 ideas I wanted to share. And I think this also relates to the the competency of growth. And even if you look at competency 3, when you are asking the client, why is this important to you? That you are going to the values, the higher purpose of the client. And coaching should enable us bring our clients to a higher purpose beyond just the literal translations that we find. So Bruce says that we are made in the image of God, as I said, and we need to put spirit back into the equation, all right, when we are healing. And says that modern allopathic medicine is not the only way to heal human beings, and we need to bring this back. Faith and belief and spirit is also involved in the whole process. All right, so my final word to bring this to an end is to take this quote from Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Beliefs. The Biology of Beliefs, it says that belief that we are frail, that we are biochemical machines controlled by genes, is giving way to understanding that we are powerful creators of our lives and the world in which we live. The implication is that this basic idea we have that we are controlled by our genes is false. It's an idea that turns us into victims. I'm saying we are the creators of our situations. The genes are merely the blueprints. We are the contractors, and we can adjust those blueprints, and we can even rewrite them. And this is a scientist speaking this way. So basically, just as coaching believes that all the answers are within the client, so all of us, our answers are within us. We have the power to create our lives. We have the power to change our situations. We have the power to change our circumstances and our outcomes based on the beliefs, the values, and the perspectives we take in life. So Flavia and Cosmates, this is my presentation of the biology of beliefs. There's so much in the book that we can pick, but these are the few ideas I wanted to share. Thank you very much.
This is our Sunlight Academy. If you want to become a certified life coach and find out more about our accredited coaching education, be part of our global community and learn about our programs, you can visit our website, sunlight.academy, and get in touch with us. We are more than happy to meet you.